There is no Democrat Party for me. I would consider myself a leftist. I think abortion should be banned, weed should be legal, and Trump is a dictator who shouldn't be in office. So you might be asking, so why are you saying that there isn't a Democrat Party for you? I say that because in light of these LA riots in 2025, I feel like me and my leftist friends are on two different ends of the issue. On one side of the issue, we have progressives who seem to think that violent protests are the only way to have progressive values seen. The other side denounces these violent protests, stating that it devalues the ideas that the left has and only gives ammo to the right during election seasons. The issue really does boil down to optics, and it leads into the topic of this video today. Me, a leftist who owns the same leftist values, can never get along in radical leftist circles, and I do not plan to cater to them in this video today. Let's take the current protests as a prime example. I am apparently a neoliberal for stating the same position of maybe we shouldn't resort to violent protests to get our point across. The common rebuttal that I've received was, we no longer have faith in a electoral process. Where have I heard that before? It is interesting to hear that take because it's usually the right that spouts the same rhetoric. Where you start to have a problem is when the right wins an election with massive voter turnout. The right solves the problem by showing up to the voting booths to ensure that the election is quote-unquote too big to rig. The radical left, as it looks now, thinks the only way to solve that problem is rioting in the streets. You know, guys, when Kamala Harris lost the election, I sat there and I stared at the TV and I went, you know, I knew this was going to come in handy one of these days. So you see the problem. It's a convenient cycle that keeps itself going. You lose an election, claim it was rigged by Trump, and continue rioting and lose the next election. A self-fulfilling prophecy, if you will. The Democrats are at a crossroads. They have to decide very quickly on how they want to form this new era of politics. Do they want to be armed rebel revolutionaries? Or do they want to purge these progressives from the left and actually participate in politics and win elections? The answer remains to be seen, but we can't continue this game of indecision. The common argument against the left is the lack of leadership and a unified set of goals. The left can't organize under one common cause. It has splintered and separated from the established Democrat Party. There has to be an underlying set of ideas that keep the fabric of the party together, something that catches the average middle-class American's eye. Diversity and freedom to express yourself no matter who you are is a pretty good base plate. The objective is to also be better than the opponent. In this case, it's Donald Trump and the right-wing media. Not that hard to do, but somehow leftist influencers are more insufferable than right-wing influencers. Example being Dean Withers, who refused to drink out of a Starbucks cup, but is fully willing to buy from Starbucks.
There were a lot of red flags along the way. Like, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, well, everything was like fine and dandy. And people that clearly wanted to look good and not do good. That's
Can you
not
give,
good.
without being too specific or without calling out an individual, I guess, could you explain what you mean by that?
Yeah, like I'll give like one example. So like I'll just say who it was. It was Dean. We were at an event. We were at the event and it was like super hot or whatever. And one of our staffers were like collecting orders for Starbucks. And we went and got the Starbucks and came back and Dean was like, well, I can't drink it out of this cup. And we were like, well, what do you mean? And he was like, well, I can't. He's like, they're on the boycott list. I can't drink it out of this cup. He's like, I'm going to need you guys to find another cup to pour it in. So I could drink my coffee. And to us, that was just a little bit like, I don't know. First of all, Starbucks isn't even on the boycott list as far as I'm aware. And like, second of all, like, I don't know, like things like that, like it looked really like weird to us. We were like, why? Like you're that concerned about your image that like you'll still drink Starbucks, but you won't drink it out of the cup. Like that's
Sure.
I don't know. Like, and there were like multiple things like that happened where it was like, you know, like sort of like making our staff go out of our way to make them look good. That was sort of like the theme of a lot of these people that we were dealing with.
These types of people I'll refer to as Hassan types are only in it for the following and quote-unquote clout when it comes to politics. I am not saying that's bad. You get your bag and you build your community. Where I start to have a problem is when you try to influence politics and act like a representative of the party. If you seek to be a representative of the party, do it to make a difference in the world, not to make a difference in your bank account or follower count. And that's the crux of the problem. The left has a rift in the party that has been happening for quite a long time. We are just now seeing the consequences of this rift. Take the 2024 election, for example. You saw a major part of the Democrats split off and form an anti-establishment wing of the left. This is where the Hassan progressive types are, and they only seek the destruction of the systems that this country was founded on. They don't seek to fix the problems through legislation, that's too complicated, and takes time and effort. No, they want to burn it all to the ground and build a socialist utopia that they've dreamt of. These are young influencers who didn't pay attention in their civic class and didn't really pay attention in their history class either. Unfortunately, they come from my generation. And the reason I bring this up is because influencers are fueled and living on social media. They seem to think that the online world is exactly like the real world, when in actuality, it couldn't be further from the truth. These radicalized types have been insulated in these echo chambers with influencers who are irresponsible with their platform. I say some crazy shit sometimes, but my overall message never changes. Treat people with respect, and if you want to participate in the political system, seek out your local movements and participate in peaceful protests to have your voice heard. And fucking vote. Hey everybody, Editing Zach here. I would like to put this bit in here, kind of like a freestyle bit to elaborate on, this kind of video. This video is really hard to make, mainly for the fact that you have to put nuance into it, and it isn't strictly, don't do riots, and it's also not strictly do riots. It's kind of a screwy position that we're in right now, mainly for the fact that, yes, I don't think that we should riot in the streets, but the thing that you also have to take into consideration is that what the Trump administration is actually doing right now is 100% illegal. ICE deportations, whether if they're American citizens or not, without due process, is kidnapping. So, kind of the overall understanding of this video is having more of a united front for a Democrat Party that actually wants to get things done. I criticize a lot of people like Hassan. I criticize people like Dean Withers, and I criticize the progressive left. But the thing is that I don't want it to exclusively be me trashing on the left. I'm also going to say that yes, Donald Trump's policies for immigration is unjust. I don't think that you should send the military into California to quell riots when LAPD could have easily quelled these riots and not escalated anything. But there's also another side to that coin. There's a sect of people in these protests that I don't even think are radical leftists, more anarchists and people who don't really care about what the leftist message is. But I do think that they also need to be taken into consideration while discussing this topic. Just mainly for the fact that I don't encourage riots. I don't encourage looting. And I most certainly don't encourage violence. But there's also another side of that coin that says that, yeah, it's unjust. And you just can't simply, march down the street and do it the most peaceful way you can. So I want to put in this little bit in the video because I know people are going to come after me and say that, oh, you're just complaining about the left. When, yes, I am complaining about the left, but I'm also inserting some nuance into it. I feel like the world that we live in is way too black and white. And, it's either revolution, or it's be a bitch. And I don't think that we should live in a political discourse that is like that. So while, yes, I do frankly believe that what the Trump administration is doing with these ICE deportations is unjust, and it is kidnapping, and it is a destruction of the Constitution, and like I said at the beginning of this video, he is acting like a dictator, and he is unfit for office. But on the other side of that coin, I do believe that rioting, looting, and general violence is or should be frowned upon. Sorry about the broken nature of this part of the video. I just kind of want to put in that little bit there because I do believe that this video does kind of leave out that small little portion of nuance. But on with the rest of the video. I don't know, I'm probably going to put this at the end of the video or somewhere in between the video. So, thank you all for listening. Back to the video. Bye-bye. Overall, the message from the left should be what it's always been. Peaceful protests when out of power, getting shit done when in power. If you want your issues to be addressed, get your local Democrat in power in your state, city, and presidential election. The modern day left finds itself in this issue of encouraging peace versus encouraging violence. I touched on this earlier in the video, but I want to flesh out this point. I am not going to sit here and explain what peace and violence means, so I will briefly define these examples. Peace is marching down the street with a cohesive point to the protest, expressed through slogans, signs, and chants. Violence is the inverse of peace. It is chaos. Usually a peaceful protest is hijacked by violent offenders who may or may not agree with the vision of the protest. Now that that's out of the way, we can now talk about what should be encouraged and cut through some of the rhetoric from the radical left and right. That being said, let's talk about January 6th. This was a riot and an insurrection, no doubt about it. But the one thing that I think a lot of my friends on the left seem to not understand is that just because it happened doesn't mean that it has to be replicated. We seem to be in this slippery slope that has the potential and is already hurting politics in general. The idea is that just because they did it, we can do it too. That is irresponsible and unreasonable, mainly for the fact that America as a whole oppose violence and would rather see policy change than violent revolution. So yes, optics do matter in politics. Just because you say it doesn't matter doesn't mean that it's magically going to go away. You can't sit here and say that January 6th was so bad and then turn around and say these violent protests are fine, and not the same thing. When I walk outside and see a flaming Waymo.
Not the Waymo.
Look, I get it. Seeing a violent protest makes your life a little interesting and adds value to your already sad 9-to-5 life. But go to any war-torn country in the world and you will soon come to realize that, oh shit, maybe violence isn't the answer. The argument about optics mean nothing doesn't take into consideration the fact that you lost because of bad optics in 2024. A dysfunctional party is bad optics. A lack of a leader is bad optics. The fact that you had an entire party eat Joe and Kamala alive is bad optics. The idea of we don't have to convince anyone we're right because we're simply right is ridiculous and only harms the left. I am going to talk about why these protests are happening, and I am going to say some things that will piss some people off. Well, I am already pissing people off anyway, so let it rip. They are protesting ICE deportations, some unjust and some just. The point is that the rhetoric has changed into this weird idea that this country needs open borders and we can't enforce illegal immigration. Let me be the first to pop that bubble and have you hurtling back down to earth. We need illegal immigration enforcement to function as a country. But here's the thing, while yes, I think it should be enforced, I think our legal immigration process needs to be redefined and improved so that people who do want to come to this country don't have to wait 3 years to do so. So you don't have an excuse to come here illegally. I want better processing times and a stronger border. I know we can have both, it just takes time and a Democrat Party who is more interested in doing politics than social signaling. There isn't a Democrat Party for me. Again, I am a leftist. I don't think abortion should be banned, weed should be legal, and I think Donald Trump is a dictator that isn't fit for office. But the world isn't so black and white, and the Democrat Party needs to understand that if they ever want to enact proper change in this country. Will it start here? It's hard to tell. But I will keep fighting for what I believe in and enact the change that I can with my small audience, and hopefully one day I can help move this country in the right direction. Hopefully you will follow me to do the same. If you want change, vote these people out. Vote your people in. Trust me, I know the Democrats can win elections. They have a good base for it. They have the ideas. We are superior in every single way to the right. We have social values. We have good economic policies. And I know for a damn fact that we can run a country better than Donald Trump can. The problem is that we aren't unified. Once we are unified, we are unstoppable. The thing is that we need to move away from social signaling, and we need to embrace politics. We need to practice politics. Not social media. We're not practicing how to grow your fucking account. We're practicing politics. The boring shit. We're talking about enacting policy to incite positive change. Thank you. Hopefully, we will be in a better place in the future. But as the way that I see it now, Democrats are never going to win another election if we let violence take over rational thinking. And I also think that the reason why that I push so hard on the left to not participate in violence is mainly for the fact that this is the conservative playbook. This is the Trump administration playbook. It is designed to make sure that people are angry, to make sure that people are pissed, to make sure that people will go out and actually riot instead of peacefully protest, because it is inflammatory. And I don't want the left to fall into that trap. And I feel like, frankly, they are falling into that trap because this is unprecedented and we have never seen anything like this before. So it makes sense why the left would be rioting, why the left would be looting, and why the left would be participating in violence. I just don't encourage it. But, everybody, that'll do it for me for today. Let me know what you think inside the comments down below. I know that this is a very different video from what I'm used to doing. And it is kind of a turning point. Usually, I just report on what the Trump administration is doing and the bullshit that they're doing. But today is kind of a more spicy kind of video, and I hope you all enjoy it. Please share with your friends. Spread the word. Like the video. Subscribe. I am killing for more subscribers right now. But we are growing slowly and surely. But thank you all for your time. Have a good day.